Welcome back, everybody, coast to coast, This Week in America. Great to have you with us on the program today. Politics, romance, and murder descend on the Vatican as a jewel thief works to pull off the biggest heist in history. That's the storyline of Robert Gallant's latest thriller, Rob the Vatican. Robert has written 5 novels. He's had over 30 years' experience in business and technology. Recently on This Week in America, talking about his novel, Satan's Stronghold. Back with us today to talk about Rob the Vatican. Robert, welcome back to This Week in America. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you, Rick. I really look forward to chatting with you.
Enjoyed having you on the program before, talking about Satan's Stronghold, which is an excellent book, and you've outdone yourself with Rob the Vatican. I really like this book, and the first question is, why did you decide to choose the Holy City, the Vatican, as the main location for this thriller?
Well, it started with me asking myself the question, what would be the most amazing robbery in history? And I probably discarded about 12 or 15. How about? And suddenly I said, the Vatican. The Vatican has the world's greatest treasure trove. It's Europe's most famous locale. And interestingly enough, nobody's ever tried to rob it because everybody agrees it is absolutely impossible. It's a walled fortress. It has only a few entry gates, very carefully guarded. So there's no way you could rob that place and carry anything out. Well, I spent my career working on problems where they said, boy, if we could do this, magnificent, but it looks like it's impossible to do. And I'd say, okay, we're going to go to work on it. So this was just an irresistible challenge to me. I have to admit, I've never robbed a place before until I robbed this one.
Well, and you've given it great insight. The book is Rob the Vatican. Robert Gallant, our guest on the program. The book's available at Amazon all around the country. You can link on to all the information at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Gallant is Gallants, as you're looking for it. Again, Rob the Vatican. And when you do a book, what is so amazing as you read the book is the attention to detail. It is all very plausible. This is not like you're just making up stuff and you're sitting in Midland, Michigan writing this book, sort of doing it from your imagination. You actually spent, 5 years, I understand, writing the book, and that included numerous trips over to the Vatican.
Yes, actually 5 years of researching it. I researched hundreds of books and articles. I talked to people. I talked to a history professor in Rome who gave me some interesting insights. Because I was not going to write it unless I personally believed that this was a possible robbery, that it could be pulled off, because otherwise you're not being fair to your readers. So when I finally, wow, I got the last piece, now I know it. And then I started to write it. And it's kind of interesting because as I had originally visualized the book, well, this young priest would be the most important character. But very quickly I said, no, it's got to be the jewel thief, because putting together how to rob this place is the theme of the story. So I had to switch over to make a bad guy the star of the book. And so I said, well, gee, how do I do this? And I said, okay, he's a criminal, but he's not evil. He will not kill innocent people, even if it means some risk for him. And so he isn't evil. He's just really good at what he does.
Really good at what he does. He's got interesting characteristics and becomes, in a way, friends with a number of people that he relates to in the book. The book is Rob the Vatican. Let's talk about the main character. Craig Reynolds, very interesting guy. And he doesn't set out to do this, does he? It's just a matter of circumstances, and all of a sudden he realizes, wow, I could not only make a name for myself, maybe the greatest heist in history, but I could be financially secure for the rest of my life.
Yes, it is interesting in that, hey, he'd been robbing jewelry establishments and wealthy chateaus all over Europe for a number of years. And he just had this ability to come in and abort any security system that they had, carry it out and disappear. And all you look at is you say, how in the world did he figure out to do it that way? How was he able to overcome our security system? So he had just finished a robbery, and he was trying to disappear out of the scene. And the problem that he ran into was, because they were having heavy flooding, the bridge that he was going to cross and disappear into the Alps and be long gone got washed away. So he had to find another way to get out of there. And he ended up in the barn belonging to this farming family, and their daughter, she was an outstanding gymnast, and she was in her early 20s now. She had switched from being the gymnast herself and competing to being a coach for him, because that's what she wanted to do. And she and he ran into each other, and her thought was, oh no. When she realized he was the thief, she said, I'm dead. But he did not kill her. He ran the risk of letting her go after he did tell her, look, I'm going to get through this police blockade one way or the other. Either you're going to talk me through, or I'm going to have to shoot these policemen. So she made a decision, I'll help him get through. And after he did, she expected him to kill her. In fact, she tried to get away from him. And as he said, trying to catch a gymnast, he said, that's like trying to catch a squirrel. She can move and jump, and it's so difficult. But then when he told her, I'm not going to kill you, and left, that left her feeling, well, okay, yeah, I was terrified of him, and he's a criminal, but he let me go knowing I could identify him in the future. So then later on, their paths cross again. And this time, he has a disabled sister who she was born badly disabled. After his father passed away, he took on the responsibility to take care of her. She is a very difficult person to take care of. She gets angry and upset because she's so frustrated over her ability to do things. And he was transferring her to a better sanatorium where they had promised that despite her problems, they would give her freedom to move around more. And he and Darlena crossed paths again because Darlena went out of her way to help this young woman when a passenger was being, get out of here, you shouldn't be in this good section of the, and so they developed kind of a friendship out of that.
Well, they're on a train and they're traveling, yes, and that shows you sort of this bond that was developing between the two of them, between Craig and Darlena. And then this is where opportunity comes in. What she starts mentioning, she's got a friend in the Vatican, and all of a sudden the light bulbs start to go off, and it's like one thing leads to another, and maybe this is a crime that could actually be successful.
Yes, she invites him to come to Rome with her, and her friend is a priest there in the Vatican, and he'll give both of them a real good tour because she was fascinated by him, and she no longer considered him a threat. And he was definitely, wow, she is an amazing young woman. She has courage and guts and determination, and she's very caring. And my sister just adores her because at one point she even showed the sister how to get up onto a stone fence and be able to walk along it. And then she awarded her a medal for being a gymnast. So he was really impressed with her. But when they got there and they were going around the Vatican, suddenly the priest says, Candeo, what is he doing in the Vatican? And Craig just kind of carried, who's Candeo? And he said, well, this guy was a physician who worked for the Red Guard, and he killed, he's a doctor, and he killed the anybody who was an opponent of theirs, if he could get them in the hospital by drugging them, then he would kill them like with something that would kill them off. And the priest said the summer that he was on trial, they weren't able to convict him because they didn't have enough evidence. But I covered it for the local newspaper, and I said, I remember him. He had this unusual cane that he always carried, and he held his neck real stiff because it had an automobile accident. That's him. What is he doing in the Vatican walking into that building? And said, I got to go find out. And Craig kind of pulls it back and said, look, if this guy kills people, you do not want him to know that you recognized him.
Right.
And so, okay. And so he said, but I got to find out where that door leads to in the building. In fact, I can go look at the drawings and see. And so, Craig, the drawings?
Yeah, because this is like the only living person that has access to these drawings. I mean, he knows where everything is, the entrances, the exits, basically everything you would need to pull off this heist.
And the reason these all this information exists on the buildings and the catacombs underneath was during the latter part of World War II, when the Italian army collapsed and the German army came in to fight the Allies in Italy. The Pope was afraid that they might rob the Vatican, take its treasures to help them finance their war. So he had this cardinal hide the most significant treasures in the catacombs. And this guy, bishop, was very cautious. And so he did an elaborate drawing of here's where I hid everything. Here's how you get to it. And the fact was that previous popes' lives had been saved by the secret passageways that exist in the Vatican and the ability to go from these into a building, into the catacomb, and go from that catacomb and end up in another building.
When you have someone with the credentials of Craig Reynolds, who is this jewel thief, and suddenly he basically has the keys to the Vatican, literally, I mean, with all the maps and with everything that's there, between events and planning and a mission that they develop, all of a sudden it's like this may be possible. This one building we thought never you could break into, maybe you're able to do that. And what you were talking about there, and Robert Gallant is our guest in the program, author of the book Rob the Vatican. It's on Amazon. You can link onto our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and get all the information. Layered with subplots, conspiracies, with revenge, with redemption. Rapidly running out of time in the program, let's talk a little bit about the mystique of the Vatican. There still is, and you mentioned Vatican, and it brings up all these images and sort of mysterious images of what actually transpires there. You visited the Vatican. What was your impression?
It's very formalistic, and if you're in the inn, you're a priest or you're a guard or like that, you can go anywhere in the Vatican. If you're not, then they're going to challenge you and want to know, what are you doing there? But their procedures are so careful. For instance, when the guard is doing his round, he's doing it with a fireman who carries like a set of about 50 keys because he's got to unlock a lot of doors. So as they're going from place to place, you hear rattle, rattle, rattle of the keys. So you can tell when the guards are coming. And all of this is factual. They have specific routines to do. They're concerned about fire and water. They're not concerned about somebody being there to rob stuff because there's no way anybody's going to rob that place. So it's fascinating. I found myself almost feeling like I was Craig Reynolds as I said, okay, this now, and oops, I got to avoid this potential problem. So it was fascinating, but to me, it is an amazingly fascinating place. And in no way do I want to speak down about the Vatican. I mean, it is the spiritual center that they claim it to be and is entitled to be.
If somebody in the Vatican read this book, if somebody okay, I just hear this really good book written by this guy in Michigan in the United States. It's called Rob the Vatican. If they read that book, would they maybe change some of their procedures over there, change some of the way their security is set up?
I've wondered about that because I've thought, if I was a security leader there, I would read this book and say, oh,
well, yeah.
This and this and this we need to modify because that is a vulnerability. Because I would tell you very honestly, I firmly believe that I knew how to not only rob the place, but carry the treasures out. And that's supposedly impossible. Now, they can correct those problems. And I really got to suspect that they probably have done that.
It's a couple minutes left of the show. Robert Gallant, our guest in the program. The book is Rob the Vatican. What happens when you get the treasures and you get them out? In terms of where do you go to fence that? Where do you go to turn that into money? Because these are famous treasures, and obviously the entire world is going to be looking out for these.
Right. And he goes to the world's top stolen treasures dealer, but he knows that guy's pretty likely to try to double cross him. And he's doing it because he wants to take his sister back to the United States and set her up out in a country place where, as he said, the forest doesn't mind her. And the forest treats her good, and so she's at home there, and I want to take her where she can be. But I've got to deal with this guy to do it. And the other problem he faces is, what about Darlena? Because the conspirators have already killed the young priest, and they're after her to kill her. So as he told Darlena, you have to help me rob the place, because if I rob it, that discredits the cardinal who is out to become the next pope. And that way, no longer do they have a reason to try to kill you for what you know. So she faces this unusual thing. Do you commit a wrong to prevent a bigger wrong?
Yes. There are so many levels. I mean, this is such an interesting read. I started off by talking about politics, romance, and murder. All of that and more. You've got an idealistic priest, a crafty cardinal, a vulnerable pope, loyal sidekicks. You have all the elements. It is an excellent read. It's called Rob the Vatican, hopefully made into a movie. You are so visual in your writing that you're able to really visualize so well what it is you're writing about. And I would love to see this made into a movie. We'll have Robert back on the program because he's got so many fascinating books. The last one we talked about is Satan's Stronghold. If you go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and go to YouTube and iTunes, you can listen and watch that interview. The newest book we're talking about is Rob the Vatican. Robert, it is always a pleasure to have you with us on the program. Excellent job with the book. And if you got a passport again for Italy, your friends and family should watch out to make sure you're not coming back with Gutenberg's original Bible or something from there.
Yes. I promise not to.
Okay, that's good. Robert Gallant been our guest on This Week in America. The book is called Rob the Vatican. It's available at Amazon all across the country. Information at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Stay with us. We'll be right back.